Hey guys, back again. Now I want to talk about medical malpractice and creating trauma in the individual. Now these are my experiences and what really stand out. Okay, so the first one, when I was 8 or 9, I was hit by a bus. It opened my chin right up. The chin bone was exposed and I was bleeding profusely. Well, I was made wait until my father got home from work to be taken to the doctors. So I certainly remember that day because I was absolutely covered in blood. From a very young age, I've had floaters in my eyes. I was told that was due to the gel behind the eye breaking down due to hits to the temple. I also have scars in my eyebrows and I was never told why. When I was 20, I badly shattered my left ankle. It was basically at a 30-degree angle to my leg. We were out on the town that night drunk. I wasn't told how it happened and I wasn't taken to hospital that night. My father was called in the morning and he came and got me. Well, he called into his mates first for a cup of tea and a chat. He then took me to hospital where I was taken into a room without any painkillers. About 10 people held me down and this big German woman was snapping my foot back into place. I elected for an epidural. Well, the epidural wore off during surgery and I had over an hour of feeling this tourniquet and it was like a car was basically on my thigh. It was very painful. I then was discharged after only 3 days. I had a huge plate with 25 stitches each side of my leg. I was discharged early and I wasn't able to point my leg towards the ground or it'd swell up in the cast and be extremely painful for 16 weeks. So I had to put my foot up for 16 weeks. I had tetanus shots to go and work overseas in the Solomon Islands. Well, while I was over there, I got this huge splinter in my finger. So I filed down an arc welding rod, picked it out, but it got infected and I got tetanus. My jaw locked up, it wouldn't open, and my hands looked like they had elephantitis. So I don't know what shot I was actually given. I also fractured my foot on that trip. Beside the big toe where the webbing is, it cracked, and I wasn't afforded any treatment. I came off a mountain bike and broke my elbow and wrist. I went to the triage nurse at the hospital. She asked if I could rotate my wrist. I did so, and she said I was fine. So I went home, and later that night, when everything had cooled down, I was in tremendous pain. This took 10 months to heal. I had a workplace injury where I fractured 2 fingers. I was back at the same hospital at the triage nurse and turned away, even though one of my fingers was completely black. Multiple hearing tests through work where I was told I had perfect hearing, yet I clearly had ringing tinnitus. I had my lymph nodes targeted with directed energy and my chin basically fused to my chest. My throat was that swollen. I went to the doctor and he told me I had the bird flu. I was at my local pub one night when I walked out the front and I watched the bouncer lock the door. Well, there was a huge group of blokes waiting for me and they really gave me a touch up. They actually stomped me out. They actually nearly killed me. My head was so badly deformed, you wouldn't recognise me. Well, I woke up to the police and the paramedics telling me that I had to go to hospital. When I went to hospital, they just left me in the corridor of the ward and they didn't even scan me or look over me. On the way out, I can remember being gaslit by a couple of muppets at the drink machine telling me I should learn how to fight. Told by the dentist I have perfect teeth, yet the radiation has worn them down to about half the height they used to be. I had this tiny mole under my right ear on my neck here, and I went and saw a skin doctor, and he said it's fine, it's not cancerous, it's benign. So my doctor kept pushing that it looked cancerous. So I went and got a second opinion at my mother and father's doctor, and she said it's cancerous, we've got to cut it out immediately. Well, this thing's not even a 3/16 of an inch, and they absolutely hacked my neck to pieces. There's like a 5-inch scar and it's so wide and they had to put gauze in there and As it was healing, she said, "We've got to cut in again. They really did a hatchet job on my neck. It was so painful, this." Okay, the broken back. I was denied any care for 6 months. I was referred to have acupuncture, which made things way worse. I was given the deadly steroid prednisolone. I was prescribed OxyContin and Endone for over 3 years, which became an addiction. They would leave me sitting in waiting rooms for hours. They would sometimes gaslight me and say that I hadn't even booked in at the counter. They kept setting back the date of my surgery. You had the anaesthesiologist try 8 times to find a vein and miss before surgery. I woke up in such poor condition that they had to run multiple scans, and they really gaslit me in that hospital. You had my doctor, who was aware of gang stalking, treat me for anxiety and depression. She also called VCAT on me, which is the suicide prevention unit of a hospital. You had a psychologist treating me for bipolar due to V2K. He referred me to a psychiatrist at a hospital that told me my problems stem from trauma, which is basically what I'm explaining here. When I had my car accident, I'd hurt my back, but it wasn't too bad. Well, I wasn't even checked over. Because they'd planted a knife under my seat, police deemed it fit to hit me with a paranoid tag, even though I hadn't been mentally assessed. I've been drugged by the paramedics, threatened by the paramedics. They've tried to get me in car accidents. If I'm on foot, they will veer towards me in their vehicle. They will set up elaborate street theatre or just sound their sirens when I'm near. I've been threatened in hospitals, given drugs I don't need. Whenever I have a surgery, they have a family member fake an injury and they get them in after me so that they're the last Morris on record. They're currently erasing any evidence that I was in these hospitals, and they never give me any scans. It's 3 hospitals in particular, and they're also central to my mother's death. The things they did to my mother and had me watch were the most distressing, but I won't go into those. So there you go. Medical malpractice and creating trauma in the individual. Next time I'll do legal malpractice. All right, guys. Until next time, bye.